Handout. It's been updated. Okay, she just sent me the email and I have it incorporated in this slide. Okay, but this is the second floor. This is the north exit. Where's your meeting place out of the north exit? The courtyard out here. Okay, here's the south exit. Where's the south exit meeting place? Down the road this way, 200 feet from that door. Your meeting place has to be 200 feet from the door. Okay, so if you're here, then you have to kind of make a decision on which way you go, obviously depending on where the fire is, which exit route you take. If you leave, if we have to evacuate, don't just leave and go to your next class, or don't go get something to eat. You have to muster there because you have to be accounted for. So your instructor is the one that's got to be responsible for you. There's floor monitors. I have the second floor. I'm the second floor monitor. I'm supposed to verify everybody's out of all the rooms. Okay? I can't remember who's the first floor, the lab. So just make sure you don't leave. Make sure you get accounted for. That's the second floor. That's the first floor. Okay, this is it's kind of chopped up. It's not really a good drawing, but here's the south exit. Here's the flow loop there. Double ET lab right here. This is a switch gear. Here's the calibration lab right here. It's calibration lab. So south exit down here. The north exit is these double doors. These are not considered exits for the evacuation route, but obviously they are. I mean, if you're by one, feel free to go out that one and then go to the applicable place that you meet at, whatever it's called, I forgot. Discharge. Okay. Okay. Any questions on the evacuation routes? I'll review the test before we take it. Okay. Fire prevention plan. Here's your fire prevention plan. It must include all these. A list of the major fire hazards and handling and storage and control procedures, names or job titles of people responsible for maintenance of equipment and systems to prevent or control ignition of fires, names or job titles of persons responsible for control of fuel sources, training for all employees that have responsibilities in the plant. So if I'm designating something, I have to be trained on that responsibility. Okay. Our fire prevention plan doesn't include training you guys. Okay. We have to, it'll tell you in here, we have to let you know what we have and how to use them, but you don't physically, we don't have to physically let you go out and discharge a fire extinguisher. Okay? That's not required. It is required to let you know what types and how to, just tell you how to use them. Pass, right? Point, aim, sweep, and squeeze and sweep, right? Pass. Everybody remember that? Pass, pass. Okay. I keep losing the mouse. Portable fire extinguishers. If portable fire extinguishers are provided for employee use, remember you guys aren't employees, okay? Some of the work study are, but the employer must mount, locate, and identify them so workers can access them without subjecting themselves to possible injury. Okay, notice the diagram. Okay, there's a fire extinguisher. Those are probably soft boxes, so it probably wouldn't injure you to have to climb over them, so that's acceptable, right? No, it's got to be accessible. Nothing in the way. Soft boxes, they won't hurt. Okay, so you have to be able to access them without having to climb over stuff. You can't store things in front of fire protection equipment. Okay, can't do it. It's got to be accessible at all times, and it can't be locked. Extinguisher classifications. Everybody should know this one. Notice one missing. I tried for an hour to get this thing updated, and I couldn't. It's an OSHA slide. I can add things, but I can't change things. So I started to make a new slide, but I just didn't get it included. So which one are we missing? K. K. What's K? Kitchen grease fires. Okay? Kitchen grease fires. So A, combustibles. If it leaves an ash, it's A. B is flammable liquids and gases. C, energized electrical. Energized electrical is C. Okay? If I've got this outlet and it's pouring out fire and it's still energized, it's an electrical fire. If I go open the breaker, it's no longer an electrical fire because it's not energized. It becomes a class whatever. Okay? D is combustible metals. Where you typically going to have this type of fire extinguisher at? Some kind of, some kind of metal shop where you have a chemistry lab. That's a good one. Any place you have, what type metals can you think of that burn? Potassium burns. Magnesium burns. There's a manganese, one of them. Sodium burns. Okay. So if you have a machine shop, we get real fine filings, aluminum or steel wool. The steel wool pad will burn. Okay, so that's where you have the metal. A, B, and C. What type do we have in our lab? All three. We have an A, B, C combination extinguisher. Okay, that's what we have over there. And you guys should have all had training or the opportunity to go to training with the fire department. Just first. We did it in August, right? You guys all did it? Okay. Couldn't remember if you guys did it or not. Extinguisher ratings. The number rating is only for Class A and B. You don't have a number rating for C. So it'll be, I think the ones over there we have are 10s, I think. And that's just the pound rating of it. It'll be 10 A, B, and C, which means it's 10 for A, 10 for B, and C doesn't really have a pound rating. Okay. Ratings are based on tests conducted here. You'll see the different ratings go up to whatever. Okay. A 4A, here's what you can find. A 4A extinguisher, for example, should extinguish about twice as much fire as a 2A. Duh. Okay. But how big of a fire will a 2A extinguisher put out? Okay.
Twice as much as 1A.
What do we teach you guys about a fire, about putting out a fire?
Bigger than a trash. You don't get it out.
It's got to be in its incipient stage, which is a beginning, right? And if you have any kind of fear, okay, don't try to fight it. And if it's any bigger than a trash can, don't try to fight it. Okay? If you think it's going to take more than one extinguisher, don't try to fight it. Okay? So if there's a fire in the back corner of the room, what's my first thing I'm going to do? Get somebody to get the fire department, right? Either myself, run and pull the alarm, or tell Jackie, go pull the fire alarm. Get the fire department here immediately. That's the first thing you want to be doing. Because if you go to fight the fire, and you think you can put it out, and you're wrong, and you get overcome by smoke, now nobody else knows about the fire. Okay? So you want to tell people about the fire first, and then put it out. But use all those other things to help you make the determination whether you're going to put it out or not. Okay? Maintaining, they got to be maintained in a fully charged and operable condition. So if at any time that little dial is out of the green band, it's no longer an operable fire extinguisher. Okay? That doesn't mean if you've got a little bitty, this little bag's on fire, and I know it's a Class A fire, and I pick this fire extinguisher up, and it's in the red, that doesn't mean I can't try to use it, you know, if there's nothing else, no other ones available. But you want to get the other one, if there's another one there, get one that's charged after you tell somebody or get the fire department on the way. They got to be stored in their designated places except use. So wherever they're designated, they got to be there. What is an acceptable use to take them out of that area? Recharge them. Maintenance, training, fight the fire. What do we do in our lab downstairs? Not necessarily our class, but the mechanics in the wind class. They do tons of welding down there. Okay? And fire watch, very good. A fire watch, you're allowed to grab one and take it. When you're done, you got to put it back. Okay? So if they're in use, you can take them. Do you have a question, Jackie? If they're in, if you need them for something, feel free to take them. Make sure when you no longer need them, they get put back. Annual maintenance, once a year. Annual maintenance. Okay? Must record the annual maintenance date and retain this record for 1 year after the last entry or the life of the shell, whichever's less. So if this fire extinguisher gets an annual maintenance, you got to keep record of that until the next one. Then you can get rid of that. if you do the annual maintenance and 2 weeks later something gets dropped on it and breaks the valve, you have to keep it as long as you have that shell, okay? If that shell is sitting there waiting to get fixed, you still have to keep it. Once they decide that the shell, that you can't fix it, and that's the outer red part, and you destroy it, then you don't have to keep that record anymore. That's what they're saying. Training and education. Where they've been provided for employee use in the workplace, you must provide them with an educational program, okay? If they're provided for employees in the workplace, then you have to give them training. Has to cover general principles of fire extinguisher use and hazards of incipient or beginning stage of firefighting. Okay, that's what it has to include. It doesn't have to be hands-on. If you're designated as an employee that's going to use them, then you got to have hands-on. So what's the difference? Okay, say you got administrative assistants or bosses working on the second floor, and you're down in the work area on the main floor doing the work. I'll be the one that will have to use this fire extinguisher. I've got to have hands-on training. Those guys don't need it because they're never going to be in the area to use those fire extinguishers. So they don't need it if they're not designated. If your fire protection plan says all employees are designated, then everybody has to go through it. If it says just the mechanics or just the millwrights or just whatever, then only those people have to be trained, hands-on training. Everybody still has to have the other two. Generally how to use them and what kind of hazards. Everybody needs this training because the fires can happen anywhere. But you only have to have hands-on if it's in your area or if you're designated. Okay, there must be enough exits. All right, here's a summary of the whole thing. Enough exits to properly arrange for quick escape. Exit routes must be marked, lighted, free of obstructions, and locks must not be used to impede or prevent escape. An emergency action plan and fire prevention plan must be in place. That means every place of employment has to have it. Fire extinguisher classes and numerical ratings, we talked about that. Fire extinguisher, we talked about the inspection and how you maintain them and how you get trained on them. You guys got any questions? This is a really quick one. This is a real easy one. This is not in front of me.